Okay, with that, we'll call this October 25th, 2018 meeting of the Carson City Library Board of Trustees to order. And we can proceed with the roll call.
Chairperson Hayes.
Present.
Vice Chair Long. Here. Trustee Patton.
Here.
Trustee Solinder. Trustee Cranston.
Here.
The quorum's present.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to item 2, public comment. Any members of the public who wish to address the Library Board of Trustees, now would be the time. Please note that public comment can be limited to 5 minutes. Seeing none forthcoming, we'll move on to item 3, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Have all the trustees had an opportunity to review those minutes, and are there any changes or clarifications?
I did not see anything that needed to be changed or added. So I would make a motion that we accept them as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. With that, we'll move on to item 4, the Friends of the Carson City Library report.
The report is in your packet. I'm just trying to remember what has happened since that report was sent in. We had a very good turnout last Monday for Todd Borg. As usual, he was very interesting to listen to and told stories and all that good stuff. And in the last few days, we have been fortunate enough to sign up local author of our first novel, award-winning novel, Terry Case. And she will be at the Browder's Corner Bookstore a week from this evening at 5:30. So anybody interested in her, please come out and see her. Otherwise, we're just trying to keep our heads above water as we carry on with all the activities we're involved in.
Excellent, thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to item 5, the Library Board of Trustees business, starting with item 5A, discussion and possible action to approve funding a contract for planning consultants for the strategic planning process.
Thank you. This is Diane Baker, Department Business Manager for the record. You had as late material in your packet the RFP that was selected during our process. We did have the request for proposal open through actually this last Monday. We had information sent to some selected individuals. We also had our RFP posted on libraryconsultants.org. Got some questions and interests and ended up with 2 proposals. One of the proposals did not meet the terms of our request, and the one before you is actually, if you've had a chance to look at it, we're very pleased with what has come forward in this one from the College of Business at UNR. Did anyone have any questions on the proposal that we've received for our strategic planning process?
I didn't have any questions, but I think this was a very thorough proposal and followed almost to the letter what it was you were asking for. So I think you got a very good...
We did, and we're very pleased. And one of the features of it, I don't know if you noticed, that at no additional charge, they will do an annual follow-up with us with regard to this process and, you know, the final plan as well, as a function of the College of Business. And that extra value in there was, you know, kind of was one of those nice little surprises that we weren't expecting. So what we're asking from you is to approve and accept the proposal, the RFP, or the proposal as accepted, so we can go forward with the grant funding.
I move to accept the proposal as accepted. As submitted, sorry.
Second.
Okay, those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. With that, we can move on to item 5B, presentation, discussion, and possible action on federal 2019 LSTA proposal.
So this is an item that you have before you. Just as a reminder, the Library Services and Technology Act, LSTA, the program is administered through the Nevada State Library Archives and Public Records. Their process is a two-stage process where they have a proposal submitted, which this proposal will be due November 9th, and then there will be a full application due in February. The proposal before you puts out to the state library. They are looking for the types of proposals that are going to come in that year and the dollar amounts. We do get feedback from these, and so what we're looking for this year is to have a proposal on economic value, actually beyond economic value, but value of libraries in the community, to not only set up a real-time interface, program and interface, also to develop a toolkit for other libraries to be able to access and use this type of services as well. Did you have any questions on this part? And this, as I said, this is a proposal almost like a draft level, and the full application is much more detailed and will be. And we look for, to have the full application at the January meeting because the deadline for the application is before the February meeting. So we need to have that for you for a review. Any questions?
Sorry, you said February?
For the full application.
I think we should at least let you move forward on this and see where it takes you, because I think it's information that over time would be invaluable, not just to the library, but to the entire city community and other libraries in northern Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so do you want me to make the motion then? Okay. I will move that we grant you the permission to go ahead and apply for this grant for the LSTA grant for finding out more about the economic and employment development activities in this community.
Okay.
Second the motion.
Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. With that, we'll move on to item 5C, approval and discussion on addition of a staff development day closure on Friday, December 7th, 2019.
Okay, so when we had brought this calendar before you guys, we had essentially scheduled time for staff development at the Nevada Library Association conference. We did only have 4 staff attend that conference and did not close the library as a result. And so we are bringing this back to go ahead and have a staff development day in December. That would be December 7th is what we have proposed. And it would not really change the calculation of our closure because we actually calculated being closed 2 days for the Nevada Library Association conference, though we didn't have the dates at the time. So we're requesting that we close 1 day for staff development.
Do you have a particular staff development curriculum in mind for that day?
So we do a variety of things. The staff that did go to the Nevada Library Association will present on one of their favorite sessions or something that they feel that they can implement in the library to help. We will also be doing some of our staff internal strategic planning at that meeting specifically. We're hoping to potentially bring in a library consultant that happens to be here. You guys have all been invited to the cooperatives strategic planning, and so we're hoping to be able to bring that consultant in to do some planning with the staff before we get started with UNR's, that part of the strategic plan.
Can I make a motion? I move to approve the addition of a staff development day closure on Friday, December 7th, 2019. correct? Does it say 2018?
18.
Yeah.
I second.
There's 19 in here.
Those in favor of a staff development day closure on Friday, December 7th, 2018. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries for 2018. Moving on to Section 7, the Library Director Administrative Reports.
Okay, so we have a couple different pieces of information that I would like to share with you. I first would like to re-encourage all of you to be checking your Carson.org emails, because there is some information in there that is personnel information that I cannot discuss in an open public meeting that I would like you to take a look at. The next item is, and I'm not going to steal anyone's thunder by talking about some of this, so I'm just going to be very brief. But Amy Lauder and Valerie Kwape, we traveled to Boise and to the Meridian Library System up in Boise, as well as some incubators and co-working spaces. We got some really good ideas from that. We have some good partnerships coming out of that. Meridian, Idaho, if you look at the Institute Museum and Library Services, we are considered a similar library system to them, even though they serve a much larger population. It's a good look at what happens when communities grow and are not necessarily able to financially support facilities in their system. So they're somebody to look up to. So if you haven't heard about Meridian, follow them on Facebook, look them up. They're a good system. Yeah, look at their Instagram. They're a good system to look at. So we also met with Western Nevada College about potential partnerships with the community education side to run some of our makerspace classes. And there would be small charges for community members to participate in those classes, but that would allow us to then employ certified staff to actually do those trainings, whereas or those classes, and then our staff would be the ones that are certifying. So then if people want to come in and just use the space, then they are at least certified to use the space. But then if they're going to take a class, then they would be able to pay for that class, which would include all necessary supplies. The Nevada Library Association Conference, a variety of us participated in a couple different things. Ermel and myself were at the virtual reality cohort meeting. We're working really closely with the State Library Archives and Public Records on that project. I then attended the library directors meeting where Department of Administration Patrick Cates presented a Knowledge and Innovation Center for Better Government for state employees through renovation of the current state library. It was a very interesting concept, and we're going to work additionally with the state library to identify some of the ways that they can participate in train the trainer type programs through that, so that we can then offer those classes to the public, but also train our own staff. And then the last thing I want to talk to you guys about very specifically is the Nevada Public Library Trustee Training. So none of the current, that's not true. Phyllis is probably the only current board member who has attended a facilitated trustee training here in Nevada. And the state library has set up this course on InfoPeople. InfoPeople is a library course platform out of California, and Khalifa has a lot to do with that. Khalifa is kind of like the cooperative for California libraries. So if you have not received your login yet, I have your login and I will send it to you, because there were a couple emails that she had still not received from me to get you guys a login. Now you guys have the option, and we'll address this more later, of doing each of these during board meetings. So we can take one section, do it during a board meeting, and you guys can be done. Or you can do it individually on your own time. And at the end of that, you will receive a certification for being a library board trustee. That certification is now going to be required for us to receive grant funding. So there is a little bit of incentive for you guys to go ahead and take part in that. If you don't have a manual, I believe we still have them at the library when they were given back. We will be giving them to you, and we would like you to take them home and keep them as reference. We don't need to keep them at the library because if you guys are reviewing the packet at home, I think it's best for you guys to have them available to you. Okay, so the only other information I have is in your packet behind my report. What you're going to have is just the backup. It's the scope of work and the contract for services that you guys had requested at the last meeting, just so that you have more detail on that and are aware of that. The last thing I have, and I'm really excited to announce this, is Ermel Reinhardt has accepted the position of Access Services Manager at the Carson City Library. Yay. So he has moved from acting to in charge. So we're excited to have him on board and looking forward to what we can do moving forward with him in that position. Or is there any other questions? Yeah, but I'm trying to.
Thank you, Sina, and congratulations to Ermel. And then I think we can move on to item 6B.
Okay. So in your packet, what you are going to see on page 23 is again our overview of the library's budget, including both of our gift funds for the library and for the Special Library Services Program for Economic Development at Adams Hub. We are still pretty new in the year here. The only item that we have overexpended is our small furnishing line item. It is $500 and we've gone slightly over on that. We will be taking a look at that and transferring what we need to out of that to make that whole. The only other items that you'll see that we may have gone over on is all of the salaried items that are never budgeted in the budget, but that staff get. So management leave, annual leave payouts, those types of things up at the top there, where you're going to see salaries and wages. And then you'll see, let's see if I can see what. We've got management leave, annual leave, overtime pay, and temporary staffing. All of those things are not budgeted for, and so that is why you will see overages in those areas. Moving on to the 275 grant fund, you will see our basic grants here. There really is so what Diane was just saying is until the true up budgeted amounts are not going to show up. So like that were transferred over a fiscal year. So like the NASAT My Library grant, that funding we receive last fiscal year, and we will not see that until they actually do the true up, and they only do that once a year. Well, I should say they do that twice a year. They'll do that about January, and then they'll do that in May, June timeframe. Okay, so then the library gift fund. I know that Diane had a couple items that we were working on, and so I'll kind of let her talk about identifying those.
So also, the gift fund is one of those where we wait for the finance department to give us the roll forward funds, and so that does not show here. So you're not seeing 100% true representation of the status of the gift fund. And again, that will come in the true up and that is approved by the Board of Supervisors in January. So after that point, you will have this will be a better representation of what you're looking for here. One of the items that is in the gift fund, in the general gift fund at the moment, was a donation from the Nauman Foundation, which is only allowed for capital improvements. It is still just in the general gift fund as well.
That's fine.
Yeah, and those were the only items that I have on the gift fund for you. Any questions? No.
Okay, moving on to page 30, the 232 Special Library Services Programs for Academic Development. The only items that, again, that you'll see here that we have overexpended is the management leave and overtime pay and temporary staffing. Again, they do not budget those, but you do incur those costs. And then you will also see banking services. Those are fees for taking credit cards. And so that was not budgeted for, but that is showing here so that you know that that is an expense that we are incurring. If there are no other questions, I have completed the report.
Thank you very much, Sina. With that, we'll move on to Section 7, our other administrative reports, starting with 7A, the grants admin report.
Waiting for it to pop. Waiting for it to pop. There we go. Diane Baker again for the record. Some items just were highlighting this time around some interesting connections that are built on some of our recent grants. The one where we have the laser cutter there was in this feature because was yesterday, I believe, with the arts and culture of the city and the Nevada State Museum. There was what we had last week or last month. Mark Salinas, his name suddenly went away. Mark Salinas mentioned that upcoming program, and so that went off very well, I understand, yesterday, but we did cut out the skulls for them that they used in that program, and that's going to be an installation at the State Museum for Dia de los Muertos. Then the other arts part of the arts program for October, we do have in our front area an installation of a local artist and local a rendering of a mannequin program that they have, and so that's what you see there. It's called Bookworm. So come in and see some of those. We like when we are able to get some interesting art into the library. And then the last one is just an update as to where we are with grants. For 2018, we will be looking to apply, this is federal 2018 money, to apply for 2 micro grants that will add up to $5,000, and those will be requested in 2 different dollar amounts, $3,000 and $2,000 per the requirements at the State Library. And there are several that you noticed there, the CE micro grants. We were able to get the individuals to the Nevada Library Association meeting by using the micro grants for the travel part or some of the travel funds. And we will be seeking some additional ones for travel as well, since although we do have travel funds, it is limited in the city budget. And then you saw the first part of the 2019, this is federal 2019 funding. The interesting, just little news tidbit with the 2019 funding is that they have partially approved the federal budget, and education, including IMLS funding, was in that. So this will be probably a historic year where when we actually are submitting the grants, they will likely know how much money is available. So that hasn't happened since I don't know when. So are there any questions on the grants or some of the connections, our art connections, since October was on the art month?
Thank you very much, Diane. With that, we'll move on to item 7B, the Access Services update.
All right. So the first one I have is proctoring services. So one of the services we offer at the library allows patrons who take tests and exams through online schools to actually have that service proctored for them at no cost. There's one other service up in Reno, I believe, that does proctoring, but that's mainly for students. So this is a service that is needed here. We have started off pretty slow, but we're now seeing a substantial increase in the usage of our proctoring services. So hopefully we'll continue to see that grow as word gets out. And then the last thing I have is the NLA conference. It was a great experience. Got to make a lot of connections with people. The main thing that my takeaway from NLA was the career and educational technologies. So looking at Nevada Career Explorer by Headed 2 as a way of providing tools and resources for members of our community to access job information and job training. And then our partnership with the State Library and XR Libraries, Lifelike, and now Springboard, all of which supplement our virtual reality collection, which we use to introduce virtual technologies to the community, and as well as partner with the Carson High School. And I don't know if any of you had a chance to use VR yet, but I haven't seen any of you upstairs, so I'm hoping I'll see you guys at some point. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ermel. With that, we'll move on to 7C, the Special Library Services Program for Economic Development at Adams Hub update.
Hello, for the record, Valerie Quape, Business Development Manager, hiding as usual back here. Hello. So just a little bit more information, kind of springboarding off of what Sina mentioned regarding our trip to Boise. We did have the opportunity to visit a couple different sites there that were really exciting, one of which was a co-working facility that also offered an acceleration program and was the host organization for Boise Startup Week, which was actually the week after we were going to be in Boise. But it was really cool to see because it was a nonprofit co-working space. The other spaces that we've seen have either been specifically in a library or a for-profit. So it was interesting to see something that is designed a little bit like Adams Hub previously was and what we inherited from the foundation. So, and bonus, the manager of the facility is actually from Carson Valley. So it was really great to kind of trade notes and talk about the different cultures of the areas and how Boise is different and growing versus Carson City and what we can maybe expect and change. He is also very interested in having an open partnership where we can maybe share different pain points that we're experiencing and how we overcome challenges and keeping that conversation open and ongoing. So that was really exciting. Then we also literally wandered into Boise State Venture College. As UNR grads, we did feel a little bad for going in, but please forgive us. And we had a really excellent conversation there with their directors and management. What they do is they're a part of the Boise State Business School under a separate program for innovation and technology or something along those lines. And they are not just co-working, but they're kind of an incubation space for students, but they also had programs for veterans. And so we were able to actually watch a pitch fest that was the final event of a 5-week pitch development camp that they had. So what we were able to take away from not only touring their facility and having a very long talk with their management was that when we put together our programs, we don't always need to look at them as long-term programs. They don't need to be 6-month programs or 3-year programs or what have you. Sometimes they can just be 5 weeks, particularly in something like pitch development. So that was exciting. They also recommended looking for larger corporate sponsors. So, for example, it sounds like Albertsons corporate office is there in Boise, and so they were able to work with them. And so was the co-working space that we saw to help sponsor the acceleration program. And then from there, they were able to focus their accelerator program on the type of businesses that would be of benefit to the grocery industry. So it was all food-based businesses and startups. So that was really, really cool to see as well. This last week I had an opportunity to meet with the interim operations manager at the Innovation Center, and we talked a little bit about some of these ideas and some of the things we saw and how we can start to share some of this and kind of divide the programs and services between these two so that we're working together. So they have their specialties, we have ours. If we receive a client that would be better fit for them, we pass them on, we refer them to them, and vice versa. So really developing those formal referral networks. So ideally, I would love to see some sort of communication and formal referral network going between Carson City, Reno, and Boise, but we'll see how that works out long term. So moving on to our strategic plan, you'll notice that we have one more completed KPI. That is the incubation program outline. You'll notice that it's a little bit more soft and less defined than some of the other materials I've submitted in the past. The reason for this is because we're really going to need to tailor the different measurement and measurements we ask of our incubation clients and other aspects of that program to whoever we accept into the program. I've capped the incubation program at 3 unless we somehow find ourselves with lots of money to put towards the incubation program. So maybe that'll come from this weekend's fundraiser, fingers crossed. We don't have to take 3. We need to look at who can we accept that has a really strong business model, someone who demonstrates that they are willing to learn and willing to be coached, because those are aspects that we have learned from other organizations are incredibly important. And sometimes that's a soft skill issue. So with our application process, we'll not only have a hard application, but we'll also have an interview. And we can do that via Skype, or we can do it in person. We really want to focus on businesses that are based in Carson City or the surrounding areas, or people who are interested in moving their business to here, and specifically the neighboring areas such as Carson Valley or Dayton. So keep it really close and tight. So that's kind of something to take into consideration. You'll notice that this outline also just focused on stage 1. That's because this is a pilot project and we want to be able to learn from this before we define stage 2 and stage 3 in too much detail. Any questions about that? Moving on to other performance indicators. I was asked recently by a trustee member kind of for a little bit more information, background on occupancy and that sort of thing. We currently have 4 vacant offices. We do have 1 member who is looking to expand into a second office and is kind of exploring that. We also have another member who is likely dropping an office and moving their staff members into a larger facility that they're building next month. So if you see any changes or not changes, that's what's happening. We are always recruiting, and we're seeing more and more interest in the Adams Hub, and I'm experiencing a lot more people coming in and asking questions and asking for tours. So that's really exciting. And on that note, we're also reevaluating our price schedule a little bit to be a little bit more in line with the local economy and what the flavor seems to be that we're gathering from people who do come in and ask questions. And so you can expect that new price schedule by the end of the year.
I do want to add that we are also looking at giving benefit to businesses that are coming in to benefit Carson City, especially coming into the legislative session. We want to make sure that people who have a good business model are the ones receiving the perks and not necessarily the lobbyists.
So one idea that we've been exploring is having a community rate where if a business is moving into the community or if they are already a part of the community, and if they are here for the long term and not just for a few months for the legislative session, they can apply for the community rate, which would be lower than the regular rate. So that's one idea. We haven't finalized that yet, but just so you know kind of what we're thinking with that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Valerie. With that, we'll move on to item 7D, the collection development update.
Amy Lauder, Collection Development Manager for the record. As you may have gathered, it's been a really big month for traveling and networking and conferencing and all those good things, so I wasn't here for a whole lot of the month. After the Boise trip, not in this report because it was after I had to turn the report in, we were able to go to the Internet Librarian Conference in California, which was really great, and got to talk to a lot of people and learn a lot of things about the trends and practices and kind of where everybody thinks a lot of things are going. So that was pretty interesting, and we'll probably have a few things coming out of that over the next couple months that we'll report on when we have more information. So that should be cool. Meanwhile, I was kind of looking at some of the numbers. I feel like I talk about electronic resources a lot because there's like new stuff and cool stuff and things going on, but the biggest core service of the library still is books. Shocking, I know. We like lots of things. So I was like, let's look at some of the numbers. So right at this time, we have about 90,000 items in our building that people check out, and that includes, well, not just books. It has the videos and audio and laptops and things, but most of it's books. We're adding at this time about 600 items every month. That's a lot of stuff. On the flip side of that, that means we kind of have to take, we're pretty full, so we have to take out about 600, pretty close to 600 items every month, and so that's just stuff wearing out. But there's a lot of new stuff coming in every day. One interesting number, we have between 30 and 40,000 active card holders. About 12,000 of those last year checked out items. That does not include people just using computers or people just using the building or doing other things. That's just individuals checking out items in the building. That's quite a lot of people. And that's 560 items checking out every day. Which again, it's a lot of, imagine 560 books. It's a lot of books. So I found it pretty interesting to kind of break it down and kind of look at where we're at with some of these things. Further down, I have, for these kind of 600 items every month, about 66%, about 2/3 of them are physical paper books. And then 17%, about half of what's left, is actually periodicals of various kinds, newspapers, magazines. That's our staff member Haley Swift manages all of that for us. That's a lot of documents every day that are coming in through the mail, and then about half of the rest of that is audio and visual materials. So, any questions about that? Well.
This only includes physical things happening inside the building, right?
This is only physical items. It does not include any ebooks or databases or online anything, just objects you can pick up in your hand and move from place to place, if you will.
Okay.
So it's not our entire budget. It's not everything we do, but it is one of the biggest pieces still. And then I was just spotlighting one of our favorite electronic resources, lynda.com. We did have another class on how to use it recently. It's not too difficult, but some people need it is a little more involved than some of our resources, because you do get to create your own profile. It'll track things for you. You can get certificates, things like that. So sometimes it's nice to kind of go over the vast amount of stuff in there with people so they know what's going on. And the classes that we have had for it have been very well attended. So that's been pretty great. Yeah. And that's kind of all I've got right now. If any other questions?
Do you, for that service, for lynda.com, is it like, are there certain items in there that are free to users, or like how does that work?
We pay for it. So we pay for a subscription. It's generally based on the population level of a service area for many of these resources. So we pay a rate based on our service area, and that allows all of our users to use it without paying for it. So we have a special link from our website. Like if you type in lynda.com, it'll say, "Do you want to pay for it?" No, we've already paid for it, so we have a special link linked on our website where people can go in and it'll validate their account through our databases. So it's not free, it's already paid for. It's definitely not free. But there's no reason to pay for it a second time for anybody in Carson City. So, yeah.
That's a really good resource.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Amy. With that, we'll move on to item 7E, the Creative Learning Update.
Okay, since Virginia is no longer with us at the library, again, I remind you to take a look at your emails. But I will go ahead and give this report briefly. So currently they have, I think Monday is our last Digitorium tours, where all of the freshmen, so there's about 600 freshmen, are coming into the Digitorium. They're getting their library card if they didn't already have a library card. If they did have one, it's being upgraded to Premier. And then they're being taught about the tools that we offer for them to go ahead and do their freshman projects. We then have Bonanza. Bonanza is on October 30th from 4 to 7 p.m. So that is next Tuesday. And it's here at the community center and over at the library. And we encourage you all to come. Adams Hub is going to have a booth. The library, over at the library, is a costume contest. And it's a lot of fun. Last year they had over 1,000 in attendance. This year we're expecting about 1,500. So it's the new popular event here in Carson City. So come out and participate. It should be a lot of fun. The library is not quiet on that day from 4 to 7 p.m. Just putting it out there for the world.
I'll do it later.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sina. With that, we'll move on to item 8, the board member announcements and requests for information. Did any board members have anything that they wanted to bring up?
Yeah. The Friends of the Library are also taking part in Bonanza. We will have a booth here at the community center and be entered into the contest for the best booth. We are giving away free children's books and candy. And somebody told us there could be as many as 4,000. We don't have that many free books, but we'll hand them out as long as we can.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Phyllis. Did any other board members have anything that they needed to bring up? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 9, public comment. If any members of the public wish to address the Library Board of Trustees, now would be the time.
Sina Lloyd, I will address the board briefly just to remind you that you should probably not come to the board meeting on Thanksgiving, and that our board meeting is the Thursday after that, so the 5th Thursday in November. It will be on the packet and everything, but just a reminder.
Thank you very much for that. With that, seeing no other public comment forthcoming, we'll move on to item 10, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.